everyone, welcome back to the James A channel. This is my review of The Story and the Engine. Now, the review might be a bit shorter than usual and perhaps not as in-depth. I'll get to that in a moment, but of course, before we properly get into it, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and there is, of course, going to be spoilers in this review, so make sure you've watched the episode first. So, it's an interesting one. I think it's almost ethereal in its nature. It feels like we're there, but we're not quite. I don't really know how to explain it. If you've seen it, I'm sure you know what I mean. I can go into the narrative a little bit, but I think overall, what I will say is that I did really enjoy this one. I will just get that out of the way. Really enjoyed it. Maybe around the level of something like Lux for me, so really good, but not at a top level, which I think The Well would be my favourite story so far. I think the camera work, the lighting, the direction as a whole is really strong. The music, a little loud in places, but I like where Murray Gold's gone with this one, trying to get some elements in there, a bit distinct to the sort of Nigerian culture. So that is good from him, but occasionally a little loud with the 15th Doctor's theme. I know, particularly at the end, the last 5 minutes, he's really got the orchestral music blazing, which kind of spoils it a little bit. Overall, it starts with the Doctor and Belinda in the TARDIS. We get a hint of her wanting to get back home, because essentially that is an element of her character in the first story, and we haven't really had too much of that since Lux. So we get about a sentence worth of her wanting to get back home, and then from there, she's pretty much just an ordinary companion, really. I think maybe the direction that they're going with Belinda is it's a fine direction, but I don't think it's one that's going to necessarily make her stand out. She's becoming a little bit more generic as things go on. Not that that's a detriment to Varada Sethu. I think she's doing well with the material, but there's this conversation that Belinda and the Doctor have in the TARDIS, and he's saying he's happy to go to Nigeria, and he feels like he's accepted there, and she says to him, that's the most human thing you could think, or something like that, and kind of spoils it for me, because I've never thought it's a good idea to try and make links between the Doctor and being a human. The Doctor's not human, and Tom Baker and the Pyramids of Mars tell us that. Ironic that I was thinking about that scene, and then, spoiler alert, later on, we see that exact moment from Pyramids of Mars with the Fourth Doctor on a little TV screen. So funny that I was thinking about that, and it ended up being in the episode. What are the chances of that? Out of the TARDIS they go. They've got the Vindicator all set up, going through the market, and I like the way that that's all staged. I'm assuming they didn't go to an actual marketplace. It's all in a studio, but it looks good. And we get to the bit where the Doctor goes past the sign saying stay out or whatever, and I believe this leads into about 45-50 seconds worth that was in a preview, so already seen that, but that's fine. And it's around this time there's a couple of nice Dutch tilts, I think, with the camera, which give it a really nice, I guess, flavour of clearly something is a bit topsy-turvy here, things aren't going right. I mean, if that's not obvious enough, there's the missing posters with the people that the Doctor then meets in the barber shop. And from here, it's pretty interesting. I've got to say, as the story progresses, I wouldn't say I had a strong grasp on what was happening, but they didn't detract from the story in any way. I think this is going to be one that I need to rewatch a couple of times. I think it's kind of a lot of what is going on is beneath the surface, and I think that's what will benefit rewatch. I think this is probably the story of the season that is going to need me to rewatch it. A lot of the other ones are a bit more straightforward in what they're doing. The Well is a base under siege. Lucky Day is a standard sort of conspiracy plot. Lux is a bit more, it's innovative, but it's a bit more of a typical Doctor Who story. And then Robot Revolution, that's a bit meh. But anyway, the Doctor, he's interacting with these people, and what I haven't mentioned, actually, I'm going to go back really quickly, is the pre-title sequence. I didn't really get what was happening in the pre-title sequence. Unfortunately, what I was watching it on was lagging quite a lot in that opening couple of minutes, so all I remember is that the opening title sequence, it starts in that story window of the shop, And since I hadn't properly understood the dialogue just before that, I was very confused by that. It looks cool, but it's a bit random. But a lot of the Ncuti Gatwa stories have led into the titles in a more unique way. I know it's happened with the Devil's Cord. Might have happened with Lux, I can't really remember now. But that's what this era's doing, and I like it, is that signposting later on events. There's a lot of stuff about stories and the Doctor being a story, and maybe it's linking to stuff of the wider arc of the season. We'll find out, I'm sure. And going back to the plot, we have, of course, around this time, Abby comes into things, and the Doctor says he recognises her. We find out a little bit later where he recognises her from, and that is a talking point. Around this time, there's a lot of exposition, but it's all done. I like Doctor Who stories that it's in a contained space, so I was enjoying that, even if I was getting a little bit lost with what was going on. But these people had all gone to the barber shop because they wanted to get a haircut for somebody else, is what it seemed to be indicating. I think one person was there for their son, someone was there for their mother or something. And so when the Doctor's telling his story, it's about Belinda wanting to do something for her nana. And it's really interesting that the Doctor has this story about Belinda, and of course the question is, how does he know all of this about Belinda? And that ties into the question of, at the very start of the Robot Revolution, how does he know that Belinda's in the hospital? And it could kind of go one of two ways. This could all be part of the finale, the Doctor going back into the timeline, like we saw with the Pandorica Opens the Big Bang. Or it could be near the end of the Robot Revolution, the Doctor goes into Belinda's time stream, I think, is what happens. Sees her as a child, and he sees her, and some other stuff happened. So I am more inclined to believe that in that segment of the Robot Revolution, stuff was going on, and that will be revealed later in the season. Otherwise, it does seem a bit strange that he'd know all of this about Belinda, but like I said, it will get explained, I'm sure. This is definitely stands out on its own, but it does a lot of linking to the wider series, which we didn't really get last week, so it was much needed. So as Abby, is it Abby or Abina? I can't remember, but around the time that she's there, the barber is also there, and he's really good, that actor playing him. I like that he almost, at times, seems a bit out of it. I think that adds to the mystery of his character. I don't think we 100% find out who he actually was, apart from, I think it's pretty obvious that he was a servant for the gods. Something about that is mentioned. But I liked him. Certainly one of the more interesting characters of the season. He then goes off, and the Doctor at this point decides he wants to get out. He opens the door to the barber shop, and we get this great sequence of everyone getting sucked out of the shop. Well, they're all holding on, but it all looks like they're about to be falling out. And we get this great shot of the shop, and it's on the front of a spider that's crawling along a web. It's a really nice effect, that the way they've done it. I thought all the stuff with the spider creature thing, that looked great. The whole story looked great. Again, a lot of the creative decisions taken using narrative elements, explaining things, and using the drawing aspect, I thought worked very well. So, yeah, once all of this has happened, I can't really remember the actual events that take place in terms of the depth around them, but I do know that around this time, Belinda comes into things, and I'm a bit confused what happens, because when Belinda's on her way to the shop, I should say at this point as well, Belinda was in the TARDIS, and when the door to the shop was opening, the TARDIS was going crazy with red lights. It all looked very good. It was making an awful noise. But she leaves. She's walking through the market. She knocks over a basket of, I don't know, some produce, I imagine. And it looks like there's this policewoman that's a bit pissed off with her. Next shot we get, she's just walking and she sees this little kid. I don't really know. Feels like something was missing between those two shots. But she sees this little kid, and the mystery is who was that little kid, because even the Doctor's a bit confused about that later on. Let me know in the comments what you think that had to do with, because I don't know what it was. Belinda comes into things, and it's around this time that the barber, where he turns out he's a god and he was here, there, and all these different places. But the Doctor and Belinda and some other guy as well, they're all cracking up a bit. And it turns out that this guy, he wasn't actually those gods, and he didn't drink wine with the Doctor, and he didn't do this, and that. But Abina, she says that the Doctor left her or something, and during this confrontation with the Doctor, that we get a really nice pan of the camera as she's explaining. And at this point as well, I was thinking, this is like a time lapse situation. We're just constantly referencing some story that's never happened. But not to worry, because as I had this thought, the camera suddenly begins panning, and no longer shooting outwards there, Jo Martin is there. The fugitive Doctor is on our screens for the first time in, 3 years or something since The Power of the Doctor? And she's only there for about 30 seconds, but she definitely made an impression. I was glad to see her. I've always liked the fugitive Doctor. I'm not keen on the idea of her being a pre-Hartnell or even a pre-Pertwee if she was between Patrick Troughton and Pertwee. I wasn't keen on that. I like the idea that she's in the future in some way, but isn't heavily involved in the Doctor's past. That's how I'd want it to be revealed. But she says something like, oh, my story will be answered one day or something like that. So I like that that's a little nod to the fact that her character, we still don't know much about her. I don't think bringing her back for this will be all. I'd be surprised if that was it. Otherwise, it's a little bit pointless. But yeah, cool to see her, and probably more enjoying her performance than the 15th Doctor. He is good, the 15th Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa here, but occasionally at times he does feel a little bit too human to convince me. And that's an issue that some of the other Doctors have had, namely Tennant at times with his mopes, but yeah, 15th Doctor, I did enjoy in this one. No problems here. Seems now he's really cemented himself in the role. He knows what to do with it. Takes in some interesting directions as well, but if he's leaving soon, then it's kind of a shame that he wasn't doing this earlier on, that it's taken him this long to kind of figure it out. But a lot of Doctors, it takes him a little while to really put the character in a direction that really works. So that's not to criticise him in any way. It's around this time as well that Abina does something where she's telling a story, and it's about the woman putting maps in their hair, and then the Doctor's got a map in his hair, and that's really nice the way that's all done, and that leads into him and Belinda kind of trying to find a way out, and they go to this computer brain bluey thing, and it looks really cool. I can't really remember what it was, but it has like this mask on it, and I guess behind that mask is this blue head sort of thing. And the Doctor says to Belinda, pull all these wires out, but the barber comes along and says, no, that's all useless. And the Doctor then starts telling a story, and we see the Doctors starting to appear on the screen, and that all looks great. There's a colorized Hartnell clip, and I was thinking, I did wonder, what is that from? First guesses, it looks like early Hartnell. I think there's a bit of green and black in the background of the shot. I'm guessing it was probably from The Chase. Maybe it's from the Daleks Master Plan episode 6, and we've actually got a missing episode, and this is their way of announcing it. I don't think that's actually the case. Anyway, we get all these other clips of the Doctors. Was McCoy in there? I noticed all of the Doctors apart from McCoy, I think. Surely he was in there. I probably just didn't notice him. But if McCoy was the only one not in there, then that would be a shame. I like that there was the 6th Doctor from the Trial of a Time Lord. I know there was the 5th Doctor, Tegan and Turlough from 5 Doctors. Quite a bit of the 10th Doctor from Voyage of the Damned. So there was lots of little bits in there. And, I mean, who doesn't like seeing some of the older Doctors? It's always a nice element of stories to have. As this is happening, the explosions are going off and God knows what, and the barber, he's defeated. Everyone's piling out of the shop, and the day is saved pretty much with a... It looked like a bit of a Deus Ex Machina. I'm sure there was probably a bit more... a few more elements to the scene than just a big explosion to kill the spider. But again, this is one that almost... it felt a bit like... you need to rewatch it to really understand what was going on. Maybe that was just me and I didn't pay my full attention. But, yeah, the ending was interesting enough. there's all the goodbyes. The music is very loud from Murray Gold, a bit weird there. And just before that, we get the 15th Doctor's theme playing, because, well, it's a bit like I Am the Doctor. It's a checklist item, isn't it? Is the Doctor's theme playing in this episode? Yes. But minor critique with the music there. Obviously, the music's still good, but occasionally, if you're having these goodbyes with these characters that you don't really know, the music really trying to push the sentiment doesn't work, and it kind of gives me mixed signals. But the barber, he's just like, oh, what am I going to do now? And the Doctor says, cut people's hair, make your own shop. So, yeah, he's got a good life ahead of him, I'm sure. I feel like maybe we've got a bit more with him, with that barber character. I wouldn't say he'd be wasted, but if he didn't appear after this, I'd feel like there could have been a bit more room to develop his character, because we don't get heaps and heaps with him. There's a lot of, look, I did this, this and that, but it's not really any tangible aspect of what he's doing. He's mainly just kind of laying low, it feels like, for a lot of the story, cutting people's hair, and that also relates to the fact that the spider, secretly I was hoping it was the Arachnos' cousin or something. I didn't really do anything. Almost didn't need to be in the story. They could have found another way of doing it, but suppose it's meant to be going along that web that the barber created when he was younger. So, kind of makes sense to have spiders and webs. The Doctor and Belinda, they head off. The Doctor says, I'm going to tell you a story. And then we go into the title sequence. The title sequence takes a little while before it goes to the Next Time trailer, which was a bit weird. I was looking out for Graham Norton in the Next Time trailer, and I didn't see him, which is a bit sad, but realistically, he's going to have a 2-second cameo saying, good show, or something like that. We can only hope he has a bit more to do than that. Yeah, the trailer for next week looks good. The most expensive Doctor Who story ever, apparently. The Interstellar Song Contest. And then after that, we're into the 2-part finale. So this series going along so quickly. Only 3 more weeks left after this. Overall, the story and the engine, bit of a wordy title, but it's a good story. I think it will benefit to rewatch this one. I did enjoy what was happening, but at times I wasn't actually 100% sure I was following the story. Sound elements, a tad loud for Murray Gold, but actually the rest of the sound elements were good. Lighting I really liked. Direction and camera work were very strong. A lot of explosions and shots of the Doctor from the past, which is always good. Fugitive Doctor, Jo Martin in there. Nice. I'm sure there'll be more to her than that. We've also had the Mrs. Flood cameo. Cameo is even the best word for her appearances. But she's in the hospital at the start. She says, I've got to pick up my pills. Overall, ranking for the story against the others, this is probably around... It's definitely better than Robot Revolution. Maybe not as good as the others, though. I think the others were all pretty much nailed on 8 out of 10s or above. This is probably... Well, it's between 7.5 and 8 out of 10. I'm going to say... I'm going to say 7.5 out of 10. I just think maybe if I rewatch it, then it will get to an 8, but maybe a couple of elements just don't quite get it to the 8 out of 10 for me. I feel like there was a bit of potential to go a bit further and have a bit more with that spider, maybe a bit more with the... What's his name? The barber. Felt like it could have been done a bit more with him because he was a really good character. But these are minor critiques. I will say, even though it's only a 7.5 out of 10, people were saying Lux was a banger, The Well was a banger, Lucky Day for the most part was a banger. Can the bangers continue? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say it's another really good story. Next week, people thought Lucky Day was divisive. I think next week will be divisive. But we will see. 7.5 out of 10 for me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the review, subscribe. I've wanted to do a 500 subscriber, 600 subscriber special, it would be now. I tried filming that a couple of days ago, and unfortunately, the audio and video quality really were not great. So I'm going to be re-recording that video. But the nature of that video means that I will have an unlisted link to the original. It will make sense when I release the video, but yeah, I'll include an unlisted link to the original just so you can see what I mean about the audio and the video quality not being 100%, the lighting and it echoed quite a bit, which was quite poor in my eyes. I want to get good content for you guys, so that's why. It's a bit of waffle at the end. But yes, if you enjoyed, please do subscribe. There's going to be the review for next week's story in a week, unsurprisingly. I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to go to the future and then come back in a couple of days and review it. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Hopefully you like my display. It is... Well, we've got the second Doctor. We've got... Oh, he's going to fall over. But we've got Ncuti Gatwa there, right? And you might notice a little theme, right? We've got Wiped, which is on Doctor Who's Missing Episodes. We've got The Enemy of the World, recovered in Nigeria in 2013 by Philip Morris. There's only one problem. I set this up before the episode, right? And I had the Web of Fear. But I have no clue where the Web of Fear DVD's gone. I guess it's been stolen. So history's repeated itself. Yeah. Go watch another video. Bye.